Welcome to the Gold Standard here on the 440 Sports Network, brought to you by Sinkers, Beverages, and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. I'm Braden Gall, and you can get to me on the internet or on the chat room at Lower Broad Hockey at Braden Gall.
And I'm Emma Lingan, and you can get to me at Emma_Lingan.
You still in the sewers, the streets out there? You still hanging around in the Twitter machine?
I mean, I exist there, but I try to spend as little time there as possible. It's much better for my mental health.
Fair enough. We've got some stuff to get to today. I want to kind of do, maybe it's out. I know we've talked about the draft, we've talked about strategy, but I would like to just sort of talk through all the stuff that's pouring out through. The Combine is behind us. You're starting to get new updated mocks and rankings from all across the internet. Gallagher had a chance. If you make sure you go check that out at Lower Broad Hockey. Me and Michael got together for almost an hour and broke down his rankings and the prospect stuff. I kind of have some personal feelings now that I'm coming around on. I've got a question about value at the top of the draft that I think is one of the most important developments, of course, for all Predators fans. So we'll get to that. I have one nugget, one note that I know you are going to be frustrated to talk about, but I got to bring it up. So we'll do that a little later. And then, of course, what the hell is happening in the Stanley Cup Final? We'll get into that as well. Make sure you check out the YouTube page, of course. Thumbs up, notifications turned on. Please share the product. If you would like to talk Predators hockey, as I see Nate and Kevin and Josh all in the comments. Draft party ? From Nate. I think that's worth talking about. Sinkers has approached me about that, and they would like to figure out how to do that. I'd like to know what you guys would want if we were going to do that. So we'll discuss that maybe a little bit later on. But Sinkers is having a big old party. Braden is having feelings about the draft. No. This is not about the draft. You have to think about the topics that frustrate Emma a little bit. And it shouldn't be that hard to get to the one quickly.
I would say that's not a short list. Things that frustrate Emma. I mean, we could be here all day.
The dog, the boyfriend, the apartment, are we going down the list?
Humanity, I don't know. There's just generally in life, it's not hard to find things that frustrate me.
I have intentionally not told her because I want her to react in real time. It's not a big conversation or a long conversation. It's just something that I just need to bring it up on the show. And I want to see how where I want to see your body language when I say it, and we'll see what happens. All right. Yes, Kevin says a Lower Broad Hockey subscriber meet and greet idea frustrates Emma? ? Is that true? No, it does not frustrate Emma. That does not frustrate any of us. Sinkers is having a big old party this summer. We'll tell you all about the details as soon as we get them, but they're going to have a big old party this summer celebrating 40 years of working and serving the community in East Nashville. Bluegrass Beverages in Hendersonville. If you're on the north side, you guys know the deal. Make sure you go check out their great wine selection, huge bourbon selection, fantastically knowledgeable staff. They've got a great THC section and an award-winning craft beer fridge. So make sure you check out all the great local breweries and all the great microbrews, craft brews from all over the country they've got there. So a great resource for all of your beverage needs in the community. And, of course, it is Wednesday, and it's 1 o'clock, which means Bill, old shotgun Bill, is serving meats right now. So 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Wednesday through Sunday, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Go check it out. They have a mechanical bull. Have you ever ridden a mechanical bull?
I don't think I have, actually.
They are the only barbecue joint in Nashville with a mechanical bull.
Okay.
And parking is free, so there's that. And they'll cater you.
Free parking excites me more than the mechanical bull. I would lead with that, especially in Nashville.
Look, I also agree that parking is more interesting than the mechanical bull. But if you're into that, they're the only barbecue joint with one, and the parking is free. It's the best brisket in the city, of course. And they'll cater your event. If you have a local event, or perhaps you're hosting a meet and greet or an NHL draft party, they might be able to cater your event. So there you go. You got a birthday party, a gathering, a work event, whatever. Make sure you check out Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Best in town. All right. What is that? 140 plus penalty minutes in Game 3. I thought Florida. I don't think Florida was lucky to get a win. I mean, they had the lead in Game 1 also, 3-goal lead in Game 1. So it's, 1-1. I wouldn't call it lucky. I would call it just a really great first two games, really balanced. What the hell happened in Game 3 of the Cup Final? What's going on?
I mean, what happened was Edmonton tried to play Florida's game and it went horribly for them, as anyone might expect. I don't know why they did that, because you're not going to ever out muscle or out cheap shot or out physical the Florida Panthers. It's just not going to happen. And so if you want to beat them, you have to do it in other ways. I think that was part of it. They tried to play Florida's game. It went horribly, as one might expect. And then, I mean, if you really want to know, you look at was it Leon Draisaitl, 0 shots on goal, 0 shot attempts. Connor McDavid, 2 shots. Even Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who was a game time decision. I don't know. I think it's just, if any team can come back though from that, it's Edmonton. They've done it so many times. So I'm inclined to think that game 3 was an outlier for them, just based on how games 1 and 2 went. But we shall see. Honestly, any other team, I would probably think oh, that's it. I know they're only down 2-1 in the series, but still, it's the momentum has gone all the way to Florida. But momentum is a fickle thing in the Stanley Cup Final. So I don't know. It's just worth noting that Edmonton made the baffling decision to try to outplay Florida in their own game. So
I got a theory, because I knew you're going to go that direction. I got a theory, and I'm curious. It seems very odd, but I could see it being 3D chess kind of stuff, which is, we know we're going to lose one of these 2 games. We know this series is probably going 7. We're okay I don't want to say giving up a game, because that's not the point. As the game unfolds, you kind of see what's happening, and then you maybe double down on the strategy, right? Which is, we're going to tell them that we are around in this way, meaning physical. We're here, y'all. Look, we know this is your style. We're not going to try to beat you in a 7-game series like this, but we're also going to let you know that we're willing to play this style too, even if it means a loss. So that you're thinking about that in game 4, or you're thinking about that in game 6 or game 7, or whenever it might matter. Because we know we've beaten you in the other way. We beat you 3 times last year. And if you look at the series after 2 games, that's what was so fascinating to me. It's after 1 game of this series, they were tied 4-4 with a bunch of overtime games over their last 8 in the Stanley Cup Final. Then it's 5-4 with the last 2 being overtime. Florida up 1 game. Now it's a little different because of how Florida played. I'm just curious if there's because you know how this gets, where you have to make a statement. Hey, we're not going to be the team that gets pushed around. Even if we lose this game and we know we're not going to win this way against you, we have to stand up for ourselves in some way. Now, I think that crosses a line. Personally, I would not want to be one of the 2 people that is attacking a Tkachuk brother. I would not want to have a visual image in the world of me holding a Tkachuk in a headlock while the other person punches him in the face. Now, I know it wasn't you're not breaking this guy's face. You're not trying to, you know what I'm saying? It's hockey, but it's a sport. But it was awfully cheap, and I guarantee you that film has been on a loop. There's some moments in all of these scuffles where that looked kind of dirty. That was crossing the line. That's all going to be on a board somewhere in Florida. Or there is no message board, but you know what I mean. Cell phones. I think they
sound older, please. Sound older.
I think they went into it trying to prove a point, and it just got out of hand at that point. And I don't know if that's what they were doing or not, but you cannot put a guy in a headlock and then have a second person hit him. I'm like, whoa, that's too far. That's too far.
Well, I agree with you about the out of hand part. I don't even know that they were trying to prove a point. If they were, they didn't do it very well, because I think that it's obviously the quantity of penalties is certainly worth noting. Again, 140 penalty minutes, 85 of them belonged to Edmonton. But Florida was committing penalties too. At the end of the first period, each team had 4 penalties. That's, worth noting. It was more the quality of the penalties that Edmonton was taking, to your point about it being, they were just so undisciplined, and careless. And even things like Stuart Skinner getting a puck over the glass, they got a too many men. It's just stuff like that. It's like, guys, what are you doing? Like, any point you were trying to prove, like, no one's going to take you seriously now. And so I think that it was, and to your point about the physicality, I would be a little nervous if I'm Edmonton, because what that does when you try to do that and you try to
Poke
be
the bear.
physical,
Don't
yeah,
poke the bear.
you poke the bear. And so now the bear is going to come after guys with numbers 97 and 29 on their backs. And that is going to be a huge problem for Edmonton, because they don't really have anyone who
Matthias
can
Ekholm.
go up. I mean, like,
Who's gonna defend? Who's gonna defend him?
That's the point. Is like, Ekholm could, but he's too valuable. You don't want him being the one.
Right.
If you're Edmonton, you don't want him being the one getting down in the trenches like that. I mean, okay, you have like Corey Perry and Evander Kane, but like, I don't know. I don't know. I think that now, even then, it's now the momentum has gone to Florida. It's all in Florida's hands right now, because it's like it's this gamesmanship now, where they're going to be so focused on how do we defend our guys. I mean, there was a mini scare in the second period in Game 3 that Ekblad squared up on McDavid, and he wasn't on the bench for a couple minutes, and everyone was like, but he did end up coming back. But I mean, that was a big old hit, clean hit, but big, significant hit. So, I mean, not that McDavid was very effective in that game, but regardless, right, if you're Edmonton and you have a prayer at winning this series, you're going to need him. So
yeah, no question. Kevin says, and these are some of the points. I think your point, Kevin says, Florida's been the dirtiest team in the playoffs. They deserve what they get. I think that's the sentiment by a lot of people, including the opposition. Josh, I think this is a totally valid point. Don't wrestle a pig in the mud, of course. And so I think you can go in with the plan to try to say, no, we're not going to be pushed around. We're going to be a little extra physical as a strategy. And if it leads to one loss, long series, we know what we got going on. But we've got to sort of stand up for ourselves, punch the bully in the nose. The problem is there's a fine line between punching the bully in the nose and like showing the bully like, oh, you're going to be here all series, versus like being antagonistic. And it's a very delicate line. And if you go too far, you do end up in the mud with the pig, who's very, very comfortable in the mud. And so that's what I'm curious. Like I saw, and I don't know why I'm fixated on the headlock and the punch, because it just feels like something you never see. Like, I don't know the last time I've seen that, where like two guys are doing something to the one guy. And like, I know why it's that one guy. It was at the end of the game. It was totally out of hand. There had been so many penalties. And then that one felt like it went even further than it needed to for some reason. And if it had not gone too far, I could see the strategy making some sense. Like, all right, we've got to stand up for ourselves. We got to put a stake in the ground. No more pushing us around. It's been 2 series now in a row. We've been playing this way. Put a stake in the ground. Stand up to the bully. But you can't embarrass the bully too much.
Well, yeah, because especially when Florida was not taking the bait at all. And that was probably, what was frustrating Edmonton so much.
Bingo.
But I mean, when you see, like, you kind of saw that with, who was it? With earlier in the playoffs, it was Carolina and Florida, but the reverse, the one game that Carolina,
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the one game that they won in that series, where it was sort of the opposite. But either way, I think that like that's going to frustrate them more. I mean, you could see Leon Draisaitl like visibly pissed off. Like he was pissed off. I mean, I would be too if I didn't have a shot attempt and I'm Leon Draisaitl. But either way, I think that now, I don't know. I just remember, now I can't remember which series it was. Oh, I think it was, I remember what it was. It was the first game against Dallas in the Western Conference Final. It was the only game that Edmonton lost in that series, and they lost by a lot. It was like 6-2. And there was just a moment. I mean, they were just getting killed. And they showed Draisaitl and McDavid on the Oilers bench at one point in the third period, and they just looked at each other didn't say anything, but it was just like they just gave each other this look. And there was like, I don't know, it was just like so much in that one look that it's like, oh, this is their villain origin story right now. This is where like they are getting killed by
like,
Dallas.
This is not gonna happen again, kind of thing.
Yeah, they just looked at each other and nothing was said, but yet so much was said in that look. And it's like that's where you feel like Edmonton has that comeback ability that a lot of other teams don't. So it's like I'm not counting them out by any means, but yeah, don't do that again. Don't do what you tried to do in game 3 again.
It is one of my favorite parts about hockey. And I don't think this exists in basketball because it's just not same amount of time in games. It's just not as like rivalry driven. Like there's just not a lot of animosity between basketball players these days. They're all kind of on the same club. Baseball can be this way. Baseball can get this way, especially if you throw at a guy or, you know, like you chirp a little bit or you flip a bat and all their unwritten rules and everybody gets offended by the unwritten rules. Like that can build over time in a series, but nothing like hockey. Nothing like hockey where it can be baked into your psychology of a series for years. It's not even a 1 year thing. This goes back to last year, and the psychology of all of the relationships and the incidents that happen in hockey is unlike any other sport. And it goes with you from round to round, from year to year. And it's such an amazing part of this. So now we are here in 3 with 4 to go. Somebody needs to win a couple of games to win a championship. And I have no idea what either team is going to try to do. I could see both of them trying to do something insane or play it cool. I'm assuming the NHL in some back channel conversations to the teams are saying, come on, guys, we can't have one of those again. Like, you know, play the 2 overtime games with comebacks. That's really fun and entertaining. Everybody likes that. It is now psychology because both these teams are great. They're both clearly capable of being championship good, elite players on both sides. This is no longer about talent. This is no longer about skill. It's barely about execution. This is now between the ears, almost exclusively. Unlike any other sport it gets like this because it builds on itself and it becomes psychological. You're thinking about it in off time on flights. It's just such a different part of the game than I think. You know, NBA, you know, like, okay, they're flying from Oklahoma City back to Indiana. Like that, like they're not trying to, how do I get in Pascal Siakam's head about that foul he so rudely hit me with in the third quarter. Like that's not something that happens in basketball. It's only in hockey.
Yeah. And that flight from Edmonton to Florida, like, could you get any like more inconvenient when it comes to the distance? But hey, they've done it before. They did it last year. So,
all right, are we still going to Edmonton? I feel less confident.
I honestly don't know. Like, I still feel like this one has to go to 7 games, and if it goes to 7 games, I say Edmonton. Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because I don't think they're going to get to a game 7 again and lose. Like that's not going to happen. But
and not at home, right?
No, and at the same time though, would I be stunned if Florida won? No. Like I don't know, that's going into this series, I did not have a strong feeling either way.
Got to win it in 6 if you're Florida. Otherwise, I agree. You come back to Edmonton for game 7, you're probably losing that game. That place would be bananas, which would be cool. Very random question here from Patrick, non sequitur here. Has anyone done the math on what the Preds season would have looked like if 50% of their off the post shots went in? I do not have the NHL season rankings on number of posts hit. I'm not even sure they keep that stat. I'm sure some analytics department has them somewhere. They would be better. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I mean,
they would have won a few more games. But I don't think it's that many. So
yeah, like would it have completely changed the trajectory of the season? Probably not. Would they have won a few more games? Yeah. Like I don't know. I feel like not recently, but like during the season, I felt like I saw floating around on social media like different analytics sites and stuff were keeping track of this. And at one point it was like I don't even know, but it was to me, it was more like I would keep track of how often it happened within individual games because that was something I could actually keep track of. But
Yeah.
and it's like the games where Nashville's hitting like 4 posts in a single game, and you're like, okay. Like,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
sometimes maybe that makes it feel worse than it is because it's 4 in a game, but yeah, I don't know.
If
It
it's
was rough.
1-0, if it's 1-0 though, and you get shut out and you've hit a bunch of posts, then I think it's a big impact, right? Like if you're playing a 5-4 game, you're getting a lot of other quality shots and you've had a lot of success. I don't think it matters as much. It's if you, for whatever reason, just can't break the seal on a goaltender on a given night. I think that's where it probably has, and that's the psychology again coming back to Haunchy there. So a couple folks talking about Nate talking about Marchand, totally. It's not it's one of those where it's not a surprise, but it's kind of a surprise that it's been as productive as he has been in the role that he's playing. But like it's also exactly what Brad Marchand has looked like his entire career in the postseason, kind of. I mean, that's
Well, I think that this is actually, I think on a very surface level, you look at a top line winger now playing on the fourth line in Florida, and that looks like a demotion, or it looks like he's being limited, seeing less time, all of that. But I think it actually kind of highlights the versatility of a player like Brad Marchand because he's kind of going back to his roots in a way, like that gritty, tough, pesky, like fourth line guy, like not a big guy, but he's physical and he'll get under your skin and he'll, hit you with all the antics. Um, I feel it, but then, his time in Boston, he did develop into a really dynamic scorer as well. And I think having the captaincy in Boston, I think toned the antics down a little bit, not completely, but a little bit. And now it's like he doesn't have that C on his chest anymore. He doesn't have the high profile minutes. He's playing on the fourth line and he can just play free and loose. Like I said, go back to his roots. And it kind of shows that he's very, very good at that. And there really aren't a lot of players who can fill both roles equally well. And I think he is one of the few. So I think it's been a good story for him. I'm not like,
yeah, I agree.
Objectively speaking.
Yeah, like he's not affecting my favorite teams, and he's not on my team. Like I don't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So I can be an objective observer of it. So, all right,
I
just
just
wanted to.
from a media standpoint, I will say like I do like Brad Marchand. I understand why people don't like him on the ice. I don't always like him on the ice. But he, any time that I've gotten a chance to interview him, and I've talked to other people who have said the same about him, because anytime I've gotten to talk to him, it's usually been at events like All-Star or, like there's a lot of people around. And he's always like, it happens, this in media scrums where like you get talked over a lot. I do a lot because I'm smaller. And even when I feel like I'm shouting, apparently I'm not. And it's not like rude or anything, but you just like, you're trying to get your questions in, people get talked over, whatever.
Yeah.
He will always stay and make sure that everyone's question gets answered. And he'll always be like, hey, I saw you were trying to ask something. Did I answer your question? Like he picks up on that stuff. So just little behind the curtain stuff on Brad Marchand. Like he's not all rat, although he is a rat on the ice. He can be a good guy
A king.
sometimes.
All right. So I want to talk one little nugget here, and then we'll get to the draft because I am fascinated. I think fans should be very excited about the draft. I really do. I think they should be. It's 4 picks in the top 35, 3 in the first round, 5 in the top 55. A top 5 pick that we're going to get to in a second is gaining value, which I know sounds weird, but we'll explain in just a minute. Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Make sure you go support good local businesses. Sinkers Beverages. We're working on some plans for you guys, so just stay tuned. So we'll see. So here's I'm just going to float this out there. I want to see how you react to it. And I think, and I have nothing to report on this. This is not me citing sources or anything. And I'm not really going to add any more details to the conversation, but I think there's more there around Jonathan Marchessault.
What do you mean?
the things
Is
that we.
this what you thought I would react to?
So I know you've been kind of tired of like, oh, what he said at the end of the season, and you didn't want to like,
Oh.
like, the disconnect between him and the system and Brunette, and like some players, this organization needs a player like that, and there's just been a lot of different angles to it.
Yeah.
And
No,
I just
I
think there's more there than I maybe acknowledged or we did on the show or whatever. I think there's more, meaning there's more wires crossed, disconnect, whatever words, phraseology you want to use. I think there is more there than is either out there in the media or in the press or on our show. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Honestly, that wouldn't. I'm sorry if this isn't the visceral reaction you were hoping for.
Well,
How
I've
could you
softened.
say that? No, I think like honestly, I don't know. I'm not gonna speak as if I know, but like it wouldn't surprise me. I'll say it that way. Like what was bothering me was that the narrative got blown up by, fans and social media and everything is like as if like there was a whole like JT Miller, Elias Pettersson level feud between Jonathan Marchessault in the locker room. And it's like, that's not what this was. Not saying that they weren't, there weren't butting heads or anything like that. But I think it was just people just kind of overblowing what it was. But as far as like, I don't know. Again,
you want me to go into,
it wouldn't
I can go into a little bit more detail. Not like detail, but like an explanation maybe. Which is that I was thinking about Barry Trotz talking about the paralyzation of the locker room. First 30 games, whatever it was. Trying to figure out who's the best leader. You're really good and I'm really good. So I'm going to and what happens when you have a vacuum, especially around power or around leadership, someone's going to fill it. Sort of not even of like their own, not even intentionally sometimes. It just kind of happens. Like I joke all the time about like silence. Just know that if you're in a social setting with me and no one's talking, just know inside that I'm dying. Like I'm dying inside. So like someone
you're one of those. You're one of those.
I'm like, somebody say something. Like it's too. Why are we all sitting here in silence? Like, and I get that feeling around the explanation that Trotz had with the locker room, which is that when you have like an opening, something naturally is going to fill it. Water finds its level, whatever. And Jonathan Marchessault maybe isn't the type of person that is best suited for that to fill that role. But because of his personality, being a very strong-willed guy with a loud voice and sort of one of the few guys that would say the thing that people wanted to hear, that's sort of what filled the void. And that is not what this team needs. It doesn't need that filling the void. It needs something a little bit more complex, a little bit more nuanced, a little bit more highbrow. And these are all going to come off as like insults to him, and that's not what it's meant to be at all. It's not. It's just that's not really his role. That's not really ever been his role. He's got a lot of really great roles, but that's not really his thing. And I could see him on almost unintentionally filling the void that the other players were being like too nice about. And if that happens over a whole season and the season's gone to shit, it can be frustrating for everyone involved. And so basically my theory is that there's more there in all of this. And that if the organization recognizes that and the player recognizes that and they're on the same page, that will expedite a solution to the problem.
If I don't necessarily disagree with you, honestly. Again, sorry for the lack of fireworks here, but I what I will say though is by that logic, and if that is, turns out to be true, then all I will say is that Barry Trotz, if you got rid of Matt Duchene, then you got to get rid of Jonathan Marchessault.
I think that is literally what I was thinking about last night, is the comparison to Duchene. And if you are Barry Trotz and you are trying to maintain serial winning with serial winners, you have those guys. Their names are Ryan O'Reilly, Steven Stamkos, Roman Josi. You have those guys. You do not need another one. You need a guy. You need a soldier. not a captain. You have captains. You need a soldier. And captains who are good captains don't like it when soldiers don't do the soldiering. And again, now we're 46 metaphors into this. It's just, I was thinking about Trotz talking about paralyzation. I was thinking about power vacuums. I was thinking about the Duchesne situation, all of that stuff. And all of it tells me there's a little bit more there than we know. I'm not reporting this. I'm not saying I talked to anybody about this. And that it will not come with a solution until it's been changed.
That's actually, I think, a very good point. But immediately when you said that, I thought Matt Duchene, because
Exactly.
similarly, not like they're not bad guys. They're not antagonizing the locker room. It's not like they're a locker room cancer that's just like destroying team culture, but it's not the right fit culturally for them. And so I think that I hadn't really I'm formulating this thought in real time, so bear with me, but hopefully that makes sense. But that is kind of how I see it, where it's like it's harder for people to point out because people look at like, well, what the heck, like if they're not, I mean, if Jonathan Marchessault went all Tony D'Angelo and started like cussing out his teammates like in the tunnel, then that would be, I think people are expecting that. Like that's the kind of thing that's gotta, create change. But it's like it's not always going to be that obvious. It's rarely going to be that obvious. And again, it's like it's not that he's not well liked. It's not that he's, just by his teammates, and it's not that he's not respected.
But there's also like there's a very big difference between calling out a teammate and like subtly blaming a teammate and not taking responsibility. Like those are three different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he bordered on subtly not taking responsibility and putting it on other people for much of the year. And there's a reason that Adam and you and me came to very early on Andrew Burnett not holding him accountable. And so I think there's more there. And it's, to your point, it's almost impossible to report on this stuff with actual information. It's like I have to go to my wife and be like, all right, we're going to do a human psychology experiment here, and I need your help with this because that's what she's an expert on. And I'm going to lay out the strategy and the plan and the leadership structure and all this stuff, and I'm going to see where she goes with this. And it's like, oh, that's the thing that needs to change. And that is the thing, in my opinion, that needs to change.
Well, and again, moving on from that, whether it's true, whether it's not, I guess, like, if that is true, let's just operate under the assumption that it's true for sake of this conversation. Then, as you said, it needs to change. And Barry Trotz needs to be able to swallow his pride, because at least for Duchesne, you could at least make the argument, well, that was a David Poile ad. That wasn't a Trotz ad. It wasn't his guy, whatever.
Easy to cut bait. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. This now, like, and again, you can, like, Marchessault has trade value. I mean, Duchesne had trade value too, but whatever. I think that the point is that you can find a solution to this if you're Barry Trotz, but you need to be willing to do that. And I'm not trying to suggest that he's not. I'm just saying, just sort of stating a fact here that, like, he needs to, not that he needs to be going around calling every GM in the league like, hey, you want him? But I think that he should put some more serious effort into this if he has come to the conclusion that this is a problem.
I think he is. And yeah,
I'm not saying he's not. I'm just,
I think they're going to effort this. And I think, honestly, it's for the players' best interest too. And again, like, Duchesne flourished somewhere else, but he flourished because he found a system and a structure where he wasn't the thing that everyone looked to. Exactly. He is not the, and again, not insulting to him. Some people just aren't the person that needs to be looked to on everything. And I don't think Marchessault's a good hockey player. Don't think he's the guy that everyone needs to be looking to sort of create structure and leadership and responsibility and accountability. That's not. There's other guys in the Dallas locker room that are doing that. And I think you've got those guys here, and everyone knows who they are. It's a Hall of Famer, another Hall of Famer, and then a guy who's won a Stanley Cup, and like we know who they are, and that's not him. And I don't think that I don't know. Can it be salvaged? I don't know the answer to that question. Like I don't know. But I feel like, and here's the other thing, and I've thought about this too. I agree with you on Trotz. What are the two things we know about this? He has been willing to change his mind and jettison a player after he signed him to a contract. He has done that multiple times. Now, Marchessault and his experience and his talent is different than Dante Fabro. I get it. Or Alex Carrier, or a bunch of the guys that he signed for $1 million, Glass, Tomasino, etc. But he's shown us, I'm willing to sign this person, Scott Wedgwood, and then trade him right away. We've seen that. And the other thing we know, ain't nobody else making these decisions. It is Barry Trotz's show. There's no question about that. So
yeah, no,
right. It's been bouncing around, and I sort of figured it out as what I was trying to, why it was, where are the puzzle pieces not fitting, and I feel like I've landed on something, but it sounds like you're kind of with me on this.
Yeah, like I mean, like you, not reporting, just saying it wouldn't surprise me. And I think that again, this whole thing just reeks of Matt Duchene, where it's like, it's not the right fit. That's fine. That's not saying he's not a talented player. It's not saying he's not a good guy. It's none of that. It's just like he doesn't fit with what we're trying to do, and that's okay. You just move on. Everybody,
if you need a drink, Sinkers Beverages has you covered. So go check that out after that conversation. All right, I want to talk draft here. So what's happening with James Hagans? Because I've seen him mocked beyond the Predators. The most recent Athletic mock has him on the Preds at 5. I think James Hagans at 5 would be a fantastic pick for this organization, would be probably the most skilled forward they've ever drafted in the history of the franchise. Yes, Kevin, some Uncle Nearest with my name on it. Fantastic bourbon choice, by the way, only from Sinkers Beverages. Why do you think James Hagans' name is, aside from just the regular, he didn't have a great season or wasn't his best season or whatever, is there something else that you think is happening at the top of the board and why Hagans is moving down at all?
I think that first of all, and this is nothing new. We've known this about this class, that it's a class that is deep at the center position, which is good for the Predators specifically, but just good for any team looking for a center. But here's the thing with James Hagans, I agree with you. I think he has the potential to be the most naturally, purely gifted offensive player in this draft. However, he's 5'11" and he doesn't play like a Kachuk brother. And unfortunately, with the NHL now and where this is going, and after everything that we just talked about with physicality and the Stanley Cup Final and all of that, it seems to be that physical edge is now something that size and physical edge is something that teams are starting to pay more attention to when it comes to drafting. Now, not saying that's all that they pay attention to. It's not like you're going to draft a Michael McCarron over, a Connor McDavid. But I think that it's, something that they're trying to, teams are paying a little bit more attention to. So I think it's more the guys like Anton Frondell, Caleb Desnoyers, those guys who are maybe getting more elevated in the order because yes, they have the offensive skill and touch, but they also have the size. They also play a little more physical. Same with Brady Martin. I just think that
Porter Martone, very edgy player.
Yes. Well, he's a winger. I'm talking about center specifically, okay. But which actually that leads though to an interesting question or debate potentially, because in the Athletic mock that you were talking about, Hagans goes to the Preds at number 5.
But Martone was after that.
Martone's after that. So if you're Nashville picking at number 5 and both Hagans and Martone are available.
All right. So
that's worth discussing.
So I think it is. And so I want to get to that discussion. I think the point you're making is that it's not that Hagans is being graded lower or falling or dropping for anything that he's doing. It's that other players are being viewed as even better than maybe we expected relative to the draft class, which means that there is more quality available at 5 than even we expected at the beginning of this process. If we were saying that Misa and Schaefer are at the top tier, maybe with Hagans and then Martone, well, now there's like 5 guys that are all on that tier. With it's Hagans, Frondell, Desnoyers, Martone, and all together on one tier, which means that tier is now deeper and more talented, which means there's more value at number 5. So that's a positive development for Preds fans, just as a sort of a foundational development. I'm curious. I want to stay with the physicality thing because I think the Preds have long done a pretty good job of finding that in places. And certainly if you could find that, a la Brad, our Brad Marchand conversation or the Tkachuk conversation, if you can find it in both in the same player, great. It sounds like Frondell and Desnoyers are the two that kind of are playing into that mold where they're big offensive skilled players, but also have the other thing too. And Martone, it sounds like, is somebody they need to consider. I agree. And certainly isn't the position you need, but could be the best available player. I'm still tempted to take the skill thing you've never had before because you can always come back and supplement it with the Zach LaRue types, right? Like you can always find the guy that plays with grit that you can put next to him on the wing that can score 18 goals, or whatever it might mean. So I'm still tempted to say, don't overvalue the physicality. If all things are equal, take the size and physicality. Like if you think Anton, Frondell, and James Hagans are identically graded on your spectrum, maybe the bigger, more physical players is the thing that tips the scales for him. Literally, I guess, in this case. But I think I still think Hagans at 5 is too much to pass up. Now, the debate you're asking about is best available player. And if Porter Martone at wing is so much better, according to your scouts, than the other 2 or 3 options at center, I'm really not that upset with them taking a winger. I don't love it, but I'm not upset with it. If you think he is clearly the better player and can be a superstar power forward, 30, he needs to be a 70, 80. He needs to be Philip Forsberg, right? Needs to be that good.
And I would say as wingers go in that class, like he could be Philip Forsberg.
Right.
But so, and I'm honestly, I don't necessarily disagree with you here. But for the sake of argument, what I will say, because I'm seeing everyone saying, oh, we already have the gritty physical players, get the skill guy. I hear you.
It's all they never had.
No, and I get it, and that's totally valid. The problem, or maybe not problem, but just the thing to consider is that if the Predators or any one team decide to go pure skill and not take that into account, then Hagans, there's going to be legitimate concerns about how his game translates to the NHL level, because if the Predators don't factor in the size and the physicality and every other team does, then it's no longer an advantage to have that skill. So I just think that, again, that's more for the sake of argument discussion. It's really not, I'm not saying I necessarily think that, but I don't know. I just think that, I agree. I would probably, if you have Hagans and Martone available to you at number 5, I think you got to seriously consider Martone, but I still think you go Hagans.
If it is like Brady Martin and Porter Martone, that's where I think things get real interesting. Roger McQueen, Porter Martone. Is it Jake O'Brien or Porter Martone? I think that's where it gets way more interesting for the winger. I think you have to stick with best available. You need the best stinking hockey player with this pick. Period. And it sounds like the vast majority of the NHL thinks that Matthew Schaefer's the best player. So ideally, he's not falling to you at 5. But I'm using this as an example that if he's available at 5 and he's the best available player on your board by a large margin, you've got him graded way ahead of Martone or McQueen or Martin or Frondell, then I'm okay with you sticking to your convictions. because you still have 2 more picks in the first round. You still come back and get 2 centers in the first round. Do I love that? No, it's not what I am. What I am hoping for is that need and best available and value matches up for the Predators at 5. That's what you want. And I don't think you take Hagans just for the sake of taking skill, but it is a different thing than this organization has ever had, and it is a tougher thing to find. Pure skill is tougher to find than the other side of the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but again, sake of argument. I didn't argue with you enough on the Marchessault thing, so now I'm coming back. I'm making up for it.
Let's go.
But like, think of a guy like, and I am not saying that he is the same skill level as James Hagans. Please know that that's not what I'm saying, but go with me on this. Think of a guy like Tommy Novak. That was a skill. That was a skill pick. That was not okay, made of dough. Tommy Novak got ragdolled in the playoffs. He was, that was a skill pick. Again, not the same kind of, not the same level of talent as Hagans, but the point remains that I think that the Predators now do have a legitimate reason and they have a leg to stand on if they do argue, hey, we want someone with a little more size and physical edge. So
okay. Logan, this is an interesting take. Logan says I would take somebody like Roger McQueen before I would take a winger with the needs of Nashville, and that is ultimately the debate here. You got to go horizontally and vertically on your board, and if you have Porter Martone graded ahead of, I'm going to use Brady Martin. I like Brady Martin better than McQueen. I'm kind of scared off by the size and the back stuff, but he could be an elite player, so I don't know. I like Brady Martin because it feels like he's kind of everything. Like he's all the things, and he's like total Predator. So Martin, let's go Martin, McQueen, O'Brien is the next tier of centers. If you have Porter Martone clearly graded ahead of those 3 guys, which almost every place I've looked has that as the case. And now, again, that I don't think that's possible because Schaefer, like you're going to get either Schaefer, Misa, Hagans, Frondell, or Desnoyers. Like you're going to get one of those 5. If you want one of those 5, you'll get them. So you're not going to be debating between McQueen and Porter Martone, in theory. In theory.
I think
so that's where I don't like going beyond the board. I like taking the best available player, even if he's a winger.
Yeah. I mean, it's a top 5 pick. Like you don't need to play chess here. You can play checkers. It's okay. With number 5, you can play checkers. Chess
Tommy Dovak.
Chess comes in later when you're picking at number 25 or 26. Like that's fine. But I think that I think the argument here, and I understand it from a lot of Preds fans, is like, we already have size, we have physicality, we need the skill. And it's like, yes, but what if you could get a guy who has both? Like that's the thing.
But it feels like but doesn't it feel like that's Frondell and Desnoyers, not?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Right. But I'm saying, like, if I don't know, like maybe one of those guys is available. That's why this draft is so interesting, because there isn't, there's still a lot of question as to the order. Like now it's like 90% sure that Schaefer is going to go number 1 to New York, but like maybe not, they might go with Misa. Yeah. I don't know. So like it's interesting. It's fun for the first time in a while.
It's really fun. And you have so much, to get like Blake Fiddler in the 23rd pick is great also. You're going to get a right-handed defenseman, and I trust the organization to evaluate defensemen. Dallas says, I'm sorry, but taking Martone if Hagans is available is wildly stupid when your current best center projects as a 2C at best. Highly skilled wingers come available frequently. Highly skilled centers do not. I agree. And I think your point about checkers is the right one here. If you put the board together, you and I are in charge of the board, and you got to, I just went through this with the Titans. Talk to the GMs. Stay true to your board. Do all the work, build the board, and then stick with it. And then you're never surprised by what you have to do. You're never flustered by what you have to do, or when somebody goes out of order. Stick with your board.
I don't think either of us are saying you pick Martone over Hagans if they're both available, but I'm saying you do give it consideration. You think about it.
I think it's Martone. Again, unless you think Martone is like the number 3 player in this draft, Like Schaefer, Misa 1 and 2. If you think Martone's the third best player in this draft, then maybe you need to stick to your board. My thought is to your point about checkers, Schaefer is a top 5 prospect, not chess, checkers. Misa is a top 5 prospect, not chess, checkers. The other 3 seem so painfully obvious to get to 5, and you don't need to get to 6. So if Porter Martone is a great player and he's your 6th best player, awesome. You don't need to think about him. And
right.
McQueen, and I think what we're saying, and this is Brad's point here too, would love for McQueen to drop out of the top 10, trade back up to get him. That's what I am interested in, is moving back to 10, 11, 12, 13. Whoever falls, McQueen with the back injury, maybe Martin with size, maybe Jake O'Brien's available at 12 or 13, come back up and get another top 10-ish center. That I'm interested in with all of your picks. Come back up and get somebody. But Frondell, Desnoyers, Hagans, Misa, Schaefer. Top 5, full stop. Don't overthink it. Organize them how you want. Unless you think Porter Martone is, and I'm trying to think of like who he would be, I'm thinking of like Eric Lindros, but like that's a center. So I'm trying to think of somebody like, there's a lot of comparisons to James Neal, and I'm like, that's not good enough.
No,
that's not good enough.
I agree with you. I still, the decision is still Hagans, but I'm just saying that like he's that talented of a player that you need to at least like talk about it first. But I think that like, again, with the centers who are available, if Hagans falls to you at number 5, then that is
I love it. I love it.
Fantastic.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's at the start of this draft process, I really thought that this was going to be a Frondell or Desnoyers decision. That you're gonna the top 4 are probably going to be the top 4, and that you're with Martone in there, maybe not, but you're going to have to pick between Frondell and Desnoyers. Those two, to your point about adding value to the top 5 here, those two seem to be a little bit more like, all right, 3 and 4, maybe 2 and 3, maybe 2 and 4, maybe that they're kind of cementing their status at the top of the board. Those two guys. Now, I love the idea. What's going on there? Is that the dog?
I mean, Minka obviously has some thoughts about what you just said, so apologies for that.
She's a big McQueen fan. She's a big McQueen fan.
Apparently, yes.
So I just think that you can overthink this, and I think this is your checkers point. Do you go up to get one of these guys? I think that's it was already very, very unlikely. I think that's even less likely now, because if you think Hagans is falling to you and you love Frondell and Desnoyers and Martone, there's no reason to go up. Get your best player, take the best player at number 5 and move on. But to your point about having the discussion, that's the phrase you use there. That's what this last 2.5 months has been about. They're all discussions about building the board. And you build the board. And once you've built the board, stick with it. And if Martone is number 3 on your board, and he's ahead of Hagans and ahead of Frondell and ahead of Desnoyers, and he's available at 5, you take him, and then you explain to us why you had him ahead of the other guys.
Exactly.
If not, stick to your board and take the best player available, which is hopefully, I mean, Hagans at 5, I think would be a great. I think that's something fans should celebrate, honestly.
Yeah,
because he could still be the best player in the draft in theory. There's still a chance.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think
right,
people again to the point of not to belabor this, but the whole Martone discussion is what you're saying. If you being the Predators have built your board and you have determined that Porter Martone is the next Philip Forsberg, or he is that level, and to you that is more valuable than James Hagans or whoever, great. But that needs to be the rationale. It needs to be decided ahead of time, and not just oh shit, he's available, let's take him. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm just saying that needs to be discussed.
And while I don't love that Hagans is, I think he's listed at 5'10.5". So you put on some weight, you get up to 195 pounds, and you're 5'10.5". That's not terrible size. Marco, Rossi's smaller than that. So
it's not just size, though. I mean, he has no physical edge to his game.
Yeah, I know.
That's just kind of what it is. So I mean, I don't think that
you need Jonathan Taves to pair with your Patrick Kane In this analogy, you would like him to be your Patrick Kane. You need to pair him with your Jonathan Taves, which is Gavin McKinnon next year.
Yeah, I mean, people talking about like, well, that's what they did. They got Igor Surin. He's the big physical guy. Like, you need skill now. Like, put them together. All the people who are saying that, do you understand that they're both centers and they're not going to play together? But I mean, whatever. The point is that you can have both. And I think a lot of Predators fans are very, like, I don't know, maybe jaded because for so many years, it's been only physicality and only grit. And it's like, we have no skill, give us skill. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I think that's what they're going to do, but it's just more of a reminder that there can be both. Like, you can get a Kachuk brother. Like, there are players like that who exist. Nashville just doesn't have them.
And they don't exactly grow on trees. So they're hard to find. They're hard to find. But you presumably have an opportunity to stockpile defensemen later in the first round, add maybe a winger later in the first round. It's a luxury pick. So if you want to take the best goalie in the entire draft, I don't really hate that idea, but he better be the best goalie in the draft. And that's possible. He could be available. Like, there's lots you can do.
And his timeline damn well better line up with UC Saros better than the last goaltender you drafted did.
No, you just got to be able to move UC Saros after his 4th season then. Or 5th season. But like, again, with 23, 26, 35, 55, 67, got a lot you can do. So we shall see. I agree with most of you guys in the comments and Lower Broad Hockey. This is going to be a very fun and interesting draft. No matter what happens, it is going to be extremely impactful, extremely important, very, very fun. And hopefully we're all drinking Sinkers beverages and eating Shotgun Willie's barbecue while watching the draft. So we'll see. Stay tuned for more. Emma, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on social media at Emma_Lingan. You can find my work at the Hockey News. And I guess you can find me debating my dog about Roger McQueen, because she had some very strong feelings about that.
Big McQueen girl, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
We all have the player we fall in love with. It's okay.
Hey, she was rooting for the Winnipeg Jets in the playoffs this year. So, I mean,
that's a bridge too far. I will say our dog that we got last June, who's about a year old now, actually his birthday was like 2 days ago, or his adoption day. I don't know. He's still a relatively young pup, but he watches television.
Oh, so does she.
Watches television. My old dog could not give two shits about television. This dog will. So we've started watching all the like the snow animal dog sled kind of Disney movies with the kids, like White Fang and 8 Below with a very young Paul Walker, I think. My wife liked that part, strangely enough. And the dog will just like stand up and do stare at the dogs that are on the screen the whole time. He thinks
mine just loses her shit. Mine loses her shit anytime. It's an animal of any kind. It's not exclusive to dogs. Cats, horses, livestock of any kind.
Are cats animals? Are they an animal?
Bird, the Limu Emu commercials, fuck that. She hates those.
Wow, I got an F-bomb out of that one.
To the point where she will be in another room in the house, hear the music, and run out just so she can whine at me.
Look, the emo is not a bird. He's an artist. Okay, he's got to go off and decide, figure out his artistry. All right, for Emma, I'm Braden. Go to Sinkers. Make sure you sign up Lower Broad Hockey. We got lots of great content over there. Do appreciate it. Thank you, Emma. Thanks for all you guys in the comment section as well. A pleasure. Stay tuned. Check out Lower Broad for more information about what's coming up for the NHL Draft. Other than that, have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.